Well, here we go. Joker is the latest film from director Todd Phillips, best known for the Hangover trilogy and more recently the crime thriller War Dogs. This movie is essentially a reimagining of the origin of DC Comics' most popular villain, I guess one of the most popular villains in all pop culture. The film stars Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck, a guy who is just about as down on his luck as he can get. He can't hold down a job. He's a failed stand-up comedian. He is struggling with a plethora of mental illness issues. And basically the film details his descent into becoming this, I guess, iconic character in 1981 Gotham City. And I want to start by saying, before anything else, I think I love the movie. I think that I loved it. But I'm very, very confused about all the things I'm feeling about it right now. I say that I feel confused about this movie because this is one of the most morally reprehensible characters in history across pretty much every iteration. He's just about the worst of the worst when it comes to villain. He's a villain who just revels in seeing other people's pain and suffering. He has no real motivation other than to push people to their limits. And for that reason, he's my favorite villain of all time. And I love pretty much every incarnation of him. Except for that one. And look, I found myself kind of rallying against this film when it was first announced. Not because Todd Phillips was doing it. I had full faith in him as a director. I was quite a big fan of War Dogs. But more so from the point of view that by putting the Joker as the main character of a film, by making this villain the lead character, by default, we empathize with him. It's his journey. We have to care for that character to some capacity. And for me, that didn't seem like the kind of thing I wanted to see done with the Joker. I don't like the Joker having an origin story because the more ambiguous his background is, the more compelled I am to him as a villain. And after a while, that kind of fallacy fell away. I'm not interested in seeing perfect incarnations of characters. I like having different takes now. I like directors going in and doing different things, different storytellers telling different stories. But I still kind of Look, there's an incredibly challenging thing going on here for me with this film, and I think a lot of people that haven't even seen it yet are finding themselves kind of struggling to grapple with this, is that while I'm watching the movie, I empathized with Arthur the whole way through. I understood him the whole way through, but never once was I rooting for him, at least not after the first 15 to 20 minutes or so. And I think there needs to be a distinction made between understanding a character, feeling what they're feeling, but also going, I don't like anything that they're doing. And from that point of view, I think that's why this movie is so effective to me. That's why I felt so much watching it. I walked out of this movie feeling like, yeah, okay, I think I love it, but I feel really gross internally. And there's a lot of ambiguity, I guess, to the way that we're supposed to respond to this character. I'm pretty sure that most people, most sane people at least, will find themselves that they'll have a jumping off point with this character where they go, I can no longer back what this person is doing. I can no longer condone their behavior. But what I think that Todd Phillips does so effectively with this movie is he continually, even in those moments of violence, in those moments of fury and malice and all the things that make the Joker, he finds a way to get us inside what Arthur is feeling in those moments. And I think more than anything, that's actually a testament to just how phenomenal Joaquin Phoenix is in this movie. Like, holy shit. We talk about actors embodying their characters to the point that you no longer see them present. You no longer see the actor. It's just they've become that person. And this is like top tier, upper echelon disappearing into a role. Joaquin Phoenix has completely evaporated here, and we're just getting Arthur Fleck. This movie is literally with the character for like 99% of the screen time. It is 100% Joaquin's show. And the way he commands our attention in every single frame, the way that even the smallest of details are things that we can pick up that are actually legible to us. This is an incredible performance, and I guess this is obviously an interplay with Todd Phillips as the director as well. But it's an incredible character because we can access so much about him continuously. We don't always have to go, yeah, that's what I do in that situation. That's not what this is about. The movie is about taking a person and pushing them to the most extreme responses they could have to situations that many of us might face in our lives. This is a character pushed to the absolute extreme, and I think by nature of being the Joker, there should be the mental cognition that, okay, yeah, that's not a good thing. It's not like we're seeing Batman do these things and going, oh, hang on, Batman's the good guy. Am I supposed to root for that? We know it's the Joker. We know what he's doing is messed up. And even in those moments, Joaquin Phoenix is delivering a level of empathy. You can see that he really got in and just dug in there and understood this character, who he just understood this man, this person who is living a life where every day is suffering, every day is pain. And I think that he captures that wonderfully. This truly is it's just a staggering achievement of a performance. It really is next level. And just on that quickly, because I'm sure someone will make a point of asking me this, but is Joaquin Phoenix's Joker better than Heath Ledger's? My question to that is, better at what? These are completely different characters in completely different movies performing completely different functions. And so for me at least, comparing them like that and trying to work out which one's the best doesn't make any sense. Best is such a broad thing to say, like be specific. Which one has a better laugh? Which one is better at being crazy? Which one has a better look? Like, you can compare those things and it still just comes down to which one's your favorite. There is no definitive answer to which is the best. So guys, I'm just gonna say, don't even bother starting that and trying to make those comparisons. Just talk about which ones you like the most. With all that talk about the character and the lead performance out of the way, let's look at the other players in this film. We have Robert De Niro, Zazie Beetz, and Frances Conroy, just to say a few. Their roles are incredibly small in comparison to just how much of this movie Joaquin Phoenix absolutely commands, but they all work to building this story. They never really get moments to be explosive in the same way that Joaquin Phoenix does, but they all get little moments to shine and they all really fill out this cast in effective ways. That's the lead big name stars at least. Some of the smaller players that are kind of more unrecognizable actors, I think kind of struggled through a script that, yeah, at times is pretty goofy and on the nose, which didn't really bother me too much. The film kind of exists in a heightened reality anyway, where everything is 100% from Arthur Fleck's point of view. So some of the goofier lines in the movie didn't really bother me too much, though I feel like a lot of people are going to get hung up on those things. I think this movie is very much about communicating its issues all the time. Everything is verbalized and communicated in a digestible way where we're constantly looking at what the movie's about and the themes and kind of exploring how society pushes a person to this point. And so it is very much a, we live in a society type script, but I think for me that kind of works in its favor. Put it this way, Joker is not a subtle movie, and I really don't think that it needed to be. I think that the fact that it's loud and bombastic and in your face is a good thing. And that's where we come to Todd Phillips' direction, because while I've said that I do feel somewhat confused and conflicted about what he's trying to say with this movie overall, I really can't fault his actual direction of the story. I found this to be a gorgeous looking movie. Lawrence Sher's cinematography I just found utterly stunning. The use of super shallow focus with wide angle lenses is a really unique look. I have not seen a comic book movie that looks quite like this. I don't really think I've seen any movie that has this visual texture and feel, and I really appreciated how different it felt. It definitely feels visually unique, and it's an incredibly colorful movie too, despite how dark and drab and depressing it is tonally. I think it definitely finds moments to make the color pop. And it also has really wonderful production design, this feeling of just trash overflowing from the sidewalks. It's a really gorgeous look at Gotham, a kind of unique one. It's set in the 1980s, so we're getting that kind of period piece feel to it, and yet it still has those little things that make Gotham, those little flourishes of style that we're not quite familiar with in the real world, and I really appreciated those kinds of details. But I do find that this movie was really good with its visual communication. It really makes sure, and I know I've said this already, but it really makes sure it's communicating as much information about this character as it can at all times. The score by Hilda Gudnadottir is absolutely wonderful. This is one of the most exciting scores of the year for me. It's probably my favorite comic book movie score since Hans Zimmer did Man of Steel. It's so unique and original and violent and dreary and wild and depraved and guttural. I should have expected that a score by her would be like this, but it does feel really wonderful to have such an unconventional kind of undertone to this entire movie. And I love that, I wasn't as hot on a lot of Todd Phillips' kind of musical cues from existing tracks, but the way so many of them were then blended into the score to kind of take on new life and become this entirely new thing. The score has this feeling of things always getting worse, of things always getting more depraved and violent and sickly. And I think the score is definitely one of the film's strongest elements. At the end of the day, while I do feel morally confused about my response to this movie and my understanding of this character, I loved this movie. I really, really did. And I think that there's a lot of discourse going on around this movie, to say the least, and I think that we need to understand and be respectful of the fact that what this movie does is not going to be for everyone. Some people will have very visceral responses to this movie where they just don't like what it depicts on the platform it depicts. Obviously, movies have been showing characters like this going through descents like this for 50 years minimum. Movies like Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, two movies that this one actually draws on. But a movie like this, with a character like this, has never really had such a big, high-profile platform. And so I think we need to understand that people will have concerns about that. I feel like most people with kind of a morally sound point of view, with a lot of empathy for other people, with a strong understanding of interpersonal connection, are going to not root for this character and not going to see anything here that condones what the character goes through. But I do think we need to be aware that there are going to be concerns about some people reading it that way. And so I want to make it clear that the more we talk about that being the case, the more likely we're willing that into existence. This movie, I think, does not condone what the character does, but it wants us to understand. And I think that dichotomy, that relationship between not rooting for what a character does and understanding what has led them to this point, is where so much of the conversation around this movie is generating from. And for me, I think that might be the number one thing that attaches me to this movie, that I kind of love it for, is that it is a comic book movie that is making people discuss ideas, that is making people discuss what the movie's actually about. You don't get to watch this movie, have a good time, and then go home and wait for the next one. This is a standalone story. This is a one-off thing, a movie with things on its mind that it wants to tackle. I don't know how well Todd Phillips did that. I don't know how well he managed to, in all that he is communicating all the time, I don't know how effective the standpoints are that he made. But the point is for me, is that I'm having a fantastic time moving through that and deciphering that. And I can't say whether you will as well, but for me, that's enough to say that I love this movie. So those are my thoughts on Joker. Have you seen it yet? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you like this video? Well, of course you did. You can subscribe to Breaking Banter down there somewhere, as well as my other channel, Loverboy, over there somewhere. You can also follow me on Twitter at Loverboy Media. And if you really want to help support this channel, you can support on Patreon. Thank you so much to anyone doing that already. It really does mean the world to me. And yeah, I guess I'm gonna see you all in the next video.